A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Bill Muehlenberg from Culture Watch. Hello, Bill. Welcome back to 2020.
Thanks, Neil. Great to be with you again.
Hey, Bill, in Victoria this morning, big developments around the exiled MP Moira Deeming. She won't be rejoining the Liberal Party. There was an opportunity, but what's happened in your understanding?
Yeah, well, that's right. A special meeting was called in the attempt to bring Deeming back into the Liberal Party after she was so unceremoniously dumped. So party room meeting had discussion, pro and con, about whether she should be readmitted. A vote was taken, and it was 50-50, a tie right down the middle. 14 said yes, 14 said no. So guess who had the deciding vote? John Pizzuto, the leader of the Libs, he cast his ballot and said, nope, we don't want you in our party. So Moira Deeming is once again out in the wilderness and will have to act as a independent at best and see what her future brings. But the Liberals in Victoria have once again, in the view of many, shot themselves in the foot and shown us their true colors. They don't really care about Christian, conservative, pro-life, pro-family people. They only care about themselves, staying in power, preserving their own necks, and pushing moderate, which really means often leftist politics. So we have, once again, no effective opposition in the state of Victoria.
So 14-14 and the casting vote coming from the man at the centre of all of that controversy, John Pizzuto. Does this demonstrate, Bill, the deep division that must be there in the Liberal Party in Victoria?
Certainly does. I think we recall the words of Jesus about a house divided against itself cannot stand. That's exactly what we have with the Liberal Party, 14 at least somewhat more conservative and true liberals versus, well, in this case, this was party room. There would have been a few more votes had everybody shown up. But 14, well, we call them moderates, but again, they're often indistinguishable from the left, from Labour. So when you have that kind of tension and fraction within the party, it's not going to be healed overnight. There's still real discontent and discomfort with John Pizzuto as the leader. We've had some of the worst Labour government ruling for decades now. John hasn't laid a glove on either Dan Andrews or now Jacinta Allen. You know, what's the point? There's so many conservatives and Christians here in Victoria saying, what's the point of having a two-party system when effectively we really have one party? And just recall a little bit of the history here, right? First of all, they got rid of a true blue Christian, pro-life, conservative Bernie Finn, right? Western suburbs. So who did the Liberal Party replace Bernie Finn with? You got it, Moira Deeming. They would have known that she was a true blue Christian, conservative, pro-life candidate. So what were they thinking? If they hated Bernie Finn for being strong on the issues, why did she get appointed to take his place? So now she's gone, first of all, kicked out 22 months ago for this horrible slur, which a judge found to be totally defamatory, that she's some kind of Nazi. And now the party couldn't even bring itself to bring her back into the fold. So I hate to say it, this tells you everything you need to know about the Liberal Party in Victoria, but sadly, things are not all that much better, as you know, up in Queensland with your Libs, and, you know, we've seen this over and over again. And one fact I just have to impress upon you, 27 years now, of those 27 years in Victoria, only 4 have been held by the Liberal Party. 23 of 27 years by labor, and it looks like it's going to continue.
So if you're going to be a Christian in a Liberal Party, and as you draw attention to what's going on in Queensland as well, there might be a developing situation there. But if you're going to be a Christian and, as you say, you want to stand up for some level of Christian values and be pro-life, you can be the Christian, but you've got to zip your lip and dare not speak about those moral issues which are imperative to understanding how you protect a civilized society. So for Christians, there's a silencing going on, Bill. And maybe we're just, speculating, but I think there's real evidence, isn't there? There's a silencing of a Christian values presence in the Liberal Party, and it seems to be more than just Victoria.
Absolutely. And it's not just statewide, it's federally as well. I mean, just think of all the good conservative Christian MPs who were either booted out or deliberately not allowed to win pre-selection. We just had Kevin Andrews, the pro-life, pro-family Catholic man who passed away just this past week. He was kind of effectively hounded out after serving such a long time. People like Corey Bernardi, right, South Australia, given the shove as well. So it's not just in the states, but federally, the Liberal Party is more and more declaring its hand. We do not really like you Christians and conservatives. If you're strongly pro-family, if you're strongly pro-life, well, take it elsewhere. We don't want you. We want to look a whole lot more like Labor, in which case, if you have a Labor strong and a Labor light, well, who are voters going to go with? They'll go with the real thing. Why waste your time with a Labor light fake party like the Libs if all they're going to do is mimic what Labor and the Greens are doing? So I hate to say it, there are some exceptions. There's still a few good people, right, federally and state level, but more and more we're just losing any genuine opposition, certainly when it comes to key moral and cultural values that most of us care about deeply.
We'll often talk about how Australia is secularising, and it really means, putting God on the sidelines, taking Christians out of the main play and putting them on the sidelines, making them spectators, really. But if you do that, if you take those values out of the debate, all you're left with is really one side, and that leans towards that Marxist idea, godlessness, and the way the Marx type of policy mentality always leans to everything woke and very, very bad and proven to be bad for civilization everywhere. So there's something here that, maybe the Liberal Party in Victoria has a death wish. Maybe those conservatives or people who are on the conservative side have a death wish because they're ignoring the very thing that actually breathes life into opposition here. Thoughts from you, Bill?
Yeah, you're right. Today I just penned a 2,000-word piece on this vote about Moira, but it follows on from a piece I did yesterday, a 2,000-word article on the two-party system. America has Republican, Democrat. We have Labor, Liberal, effectively. A bit more so here. We have preferential voting, but still it really boils down to a two-party system where most voters will turn to. And as you say, if you're going to keep kicking out Christianity and Christian values with the Libs, and imitate Labor in this respect, which really is in many, almost completely a secular, almost anti-Christian party, well, what are you left with? As I said in yesterday's article, there's still some differences, right? The economy is usually one. Almost always Labor gets in, destroys the economy, works up a massive debt, and that's certainly true here in Victoria. We've got the biggest debt in the whole country. And Tim Pallas, by the way, our Labor treasurer, has just resigned. I wonder why. So the Libs, if they get back in, they work on restoring the economy, whittling down the debt. So that's a good thing. There are differences. But as you say, when it comes to these key moral issues, it might be, same-sex marriage. It might be the sanctity of life, the whole trans agenda. When it comes to these things, more and more, hate to say it, the libs seem to think if we can be just like Labor, somehow we've got a chance. It's a joke, and most of its base is being turned off by this abdication of value, of principle. So it really leaves us with very little to go on. So that's why people like Bernie Finn is now with Lyle Shelton's Family First Party, right? More and more, we're finding a dead end with the two-party system. So more and more, we're seeing the people voting for the smaller pro-family, pro-faith, pro-life parties. So, hey, at the very least, pray for people like Bernie Finn as he runs in this new capacity. How Moira's going to proceed, I guess we still need to wait and see. She'll probably still sit in as an independent, but yeah, it's looking grim for those who are on our side. They're not getting good treatment at all from the Liberal Party in the main.
Some are saying that Moira Deeming is maybe better off as an independent. But that might be debatable too. Come back to John Pizzuto for a moment. So it was a 14-14 tied vote. And here's John Pizzuto, and I guess you put yourself in his shoes, and he's going to save his own neck. Of course he's going to vote the way that he did. What happens from here, do you think, Bill? Because this exposed division in the Liberal Party, there's going to be some level of agitation here around the fact that Moira Deeming is not readmitted. What do you think is likely to be the, what's coming in the days ahead, do you think?
Yeah, well, you're right. You said before division within the party, not just over Moira, but over John himself. A lot of people are not happy with his leadership. As I say, he hasn't landed a glove on Labor all the time he's been there. He's been a lame duck leader. All he does is spend time putting out fires in his own party. Just this past week, Sam Groth, right, the former tennis champion who is now with the Libs, he resigned from his front bench position. So there's a lot of disquiet in the Liberal Party about leadership. The question always is, well, if you're unhappy with him, which many are, I sure am, who would be a suitable replacement? Again, there's just not many good, strong conservative candidates out there that readily come to mind. I mean, well, Moira would have been an obvious candidate, but they have given her the flick finally and fully. So, if they do try to get rid of John, who would they replace him with? So it gets very frustrating, right? You want to give some hope to the Libs, you pray for them, you hope they can offer some real opposition, and you see over and over again, no real suitable opposition, just infighting, weakness, abdication of principle, just political expediency, right? They want to go on for the long haul. They want to stay in power. They're getting nice perks. They're getting good pay. They'll get a nice pension when they're done. So as I said in yesterday's article, a lot of Christians still say, oh, yeah, but the Libs are better than Labor, so, we have to be in it for the long haul. We have to, put up with Crucifully telling us we can't even talk about abortion in Queensland. We have to put up with Pizzuto and others. Well, as I keep saying, if we're going to have a party that talks the talk, especially comes to your Christian meetings, right, and gives you, we're going to champion Christian conservative values, but when crunch time comes, right, a vote comes and they end up voting the wrong way or abstaining. I've been in Australia 35 years. I've seen this happen over and over again. I've even talked to some of these politicians and, asked them why. When there was really a crucial vote on some issue, they either didn't show up or they simply voted the wrong way. Hate to say it, but what is the point of remaining in office if every time the really important votes come, you don't help us out? That's the line of their defenders. Well, we got to stay in office. We got to fight Labor. Well, they're not fighting much. They're often siding with Labor. So it's discouraging for many of us in Victoria and around the country. But as Christians, we know there's a better and bigger hope. Obviously, as we approach Christmas, we know there is a real reason for the season, and often it's not going to be found in politics, so at least we still have the ultimate hope here.
Bill, when desperation kicks in, you might hope there's some way of understanding situations more deeply, and I'm often encouraged that there is someone keeping score on all of this, and we've got a federal election coming up in the new year. Who knows whether that'll be March or April or May, but I'm always impressed by the fact that the Australian Christian lobby these days does keep score, and when there are very controversial votes, they're happy to put down who voted which way. So if you know that there is a Christian politician that is representing you in your electorate, then you can actually see the way that they have voted. So you don't want to be, always just saying yes to the person who's going to be a hypocritic politician in their role and not standing for some firm civilizational Christian values. There is some good things about that. There's someone keeping score. That's why always the sorts of resources that the organisations like the Australian Christian Lobby come out with before an election become so important, because you're so frustrated with the way that things are going. You want to make sure your vote counts. We've got another federal election, Bill. Any thoughts here on Christians and the way we give attention to voting?
Yeah, well, there are many groups, as you say, who do this kind of work, Family First. Various groups that are running are being, we have the Christian values checklist, right? We'll go not just the main parties, but we'll look at the smaller parties such as Family First or even Pauline Hanson's party, and we'll score them based on some really important Christian values. So a lot of groups are doing this, Family Voice and others, ACL, as you say. And the other thing is, things can change. I mean, they're looking pretty grim right now, right? I'm looking for another lousy 23 years of Labor rule in Victoria, the way it's going. But you never know. Things change. I mean, just look around the globe, right? Who would have thought in America, they're calling this the political comeback of the century. Who would have thought Lazarus-like resurrection of Donald Trump winning in a landslide? Nobody thought he was going to do this. He did. In England, Starmer, Labour guy, his ratings are so low after just being in office for a few months. People like Nigel Farage are now being talked about as a possible guy who could win the next election. So, we don't know what's going to happen here in Victoria, what will happen federally. So if nothing else, as Christians, we pray and say, God, please raise up good, godly, principled leaders. Scripture tells us righteousness exalts a nation. If we want to see this nation prosper, state and federally, we need good, godly men and women who will stand for what's right, not just political expediency. So, we'll see what happens next year early on for the federal election. But who knows? God can surprise us. He can raise up new candidates we didn't even know existed. So, keep praying.
Well, for listeners, and you might want to catch some Christian commentary on the developments this morning in Victoria, because a lot of eyes have been on Moira Deeming and whether she would be readmitted into the Liberal Party, and having that big win, that defamation case win against the Premier, John Pizzuto. And then all of a sudden, the drama of the party room this morning, a 14-14, when you've got just a tie there, and then it's John Pizzuto who has the casting vote, and Moira is excluded from the Liberal Party room. Bill Muehlenberg's been writing about it. You can catch his article, Deeming Ditched, Pizzuto Still Stands, but for how long? You can find that at billmuehlenberg.com, or you can simply Google Culture Watch, one word. Bill, last one of our updates for the year. It's the last 2020 for the year, and I want to thank you because you always bring some challenging thoughts And we've talked about so many controversial issues, and may those controversial issues, conversations continue into the new year. But the happiest and holiest of Christmases for you, Bill. Thank you so much for great input, great commentary that you've been able to bring for listeners all through the year here on 2020.
Well, many thanks, and same to you, Andrew, and Vision Radio. Keep up the good work.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.